Hey, it's Kim, and you're listening to a How in the Hell Did I Get Here short, which are individual stories we've pulled from the archives of How in the Hell Did I Get Here. As of August 6th, 2020, How in the Hell Did I Get Here is on hiatus, and I'm going to do my best to keep sharing these shorts with you for as long as it makes sense. And I want to say a huge thank you to you for listening and supporting the show. If you can please leave us a review or support us as a patron at buymeacoffee.com/The Coloring Book Coach, that would be amazing. Because knowing that you're listening and enjoying what we're creating really does make a difference. Enjoy today's story here. And if you miss me and How in the Hell Did I Get Here, you can subscribe to my other podcast called Fall in Love with Yourself Toolkit, where I give advice and insight for each month and each week of that month. You might even hear a few of the sisters over there from time to time. This is Kim A. Floden, and you're listening to How in the Hell Did I Get Here shorts, and this podcast most definitely does include swear words. This How in the Hell Did I Get Here story from the 90s gives you a peek into some of our crazy relatives, whom I'm sure you'll hear more about in future episodes. This one features myself, Grandma, and Larry. Father to Jenny, Aaron, Sky, and our brother Matt. Stepfather to myself, Carrie, and our brother Chris. Let's just say we don't call him Crazy Larry for no reason. The man is an original. So there was a party. Oh, yeah. Grandma was in fine form at this party. So I was there with husband number one. And I remember I was sitting at the picnic table drinking a beer. And every time I picked up the beer, it would dribble down my shirt. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, after the third time, and Grandma was sitting there, she was losing it. Every time that would happen to me, she would just laugh her ass off. And I'm like, all right, what is going on here? So finally, after like the fourth time, and I'm like, more beer on me than in me, she opens up her purse and pulls out an ice pick. And she's like, everybody has to keep one of these in their purse for, those moments when you can poke a hole in someone's beer. And I'm like, what? First of all, you are a crazy grandma. And second of all, I'm your grandkid. Do it on some crony in a bar. So anyway, so Dad was there. Larry was there. And he came over on his motorcycle. But when he left, he took a bunch of Grandma's baked beans in his side bags. So he leaves to drive back home.
Okay.
And
now the visual is like a side bag with beans just dumped into it.
But you're going to want to know this for later. So about, I don't know, half hour goes by. All of a sudden, someone comes and gets me, and they're with the phone, and they're like, your dad's at the hospital. He had an accident on the motorcycle. And I was like, oh, okay. So Mark and I and Grandma all go to get him at the hospital. And he was fine. This is the night I learned about if you're in an accident, you want to stay limp. As limp as you can upon impact, because that'll help you from like hurting yourself. Because that's what he claimed he did. Someone cut him off. He hit a curb and he literally flew and came down. Like, I think he skidded in on his head because he said the helmet dug a trail in the dirt. But he's like, I just knew I had to stay limp on impact. And all I could think was, oh my God, the Grandma's baked beans are in my bags.
They probably saved his life.
I don't know. So all this is going on. He's getting checked out. He's fine. But he's not really fine because, dun, 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 there's 2 cops outside waiting to take him into custody.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what I can't remember what he was being taken into custody for. But the next thing we know, we're going from the hospital to the jail with Grandma. So as we're walking in, Grandma's like, well, at least we're going in this door. You don't want to be going in the door over there. And I'm like, why? She goes, well, you go in that door, you're not coming back out. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, I've got friends in here, And I'm like, oh, I'm sure you do. She goes, I ever tell you that story about the night I was harboring the fugitives in my house when the cops came around? I'm like, what? And she's like, oh, yeah, dumb shits. Doesn't this just sound like Grandma?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, dumb shits. They robbed the bank, and then they didn't know what to do, so they were holed up at my place. And I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, and the cops called me, and I said, oh, no, I haven't seen them. I don't know where they are. Yeah, the dumb shits. She's like, they're sitting in my living room playing cards. And I'm like, oh, Grandma. So she said, I got off the phone and I said, well, they're on to you. You better take off. So she said they hid in the woods across from my house for a few days. I'd bring them over food till they figured out what they were going to do. And I think they maybe were in the jail now because that's what triggered the whole thing. I've got friends.
I have a vague memory of hearing that story about
my God.
In the basement.
Yeah. So I had to bail Dad out and we had to give him a ride home. But the whole thing from top to bottom was nuts. This is, I guess, a grandma story. Do you guys have grandmas like this? Anybody out there have crazy grandmas like this? And my grandma, how old is our grandma now? She's like 92.
92.
She's still kicking, and she'll still sit and have a beer with you, and probably, if she can, poke a hole in it.
Yeah. But you left out now. So when you bailed Dad out of jail, was he covered in baked beans?
No, he was not covered in baked beans. Can't remember. I think he was very concerned about that we get the saddlebags off the bike. Because he didn't want to, leave the beans on the bike. Because the bike was totaled, I think. Mm-hmm. So he just wanted to make sure he had the beans and the bag of beans. But it was worth it because it's just like hanging out with Grandma and hearing those crazy stories. Thanks again for all your support and for being a listener. We hope you enjoyed this How in the Hell Did I Get Here short. And again, if you can leave us a review and share the show with your friends, we appreciate it. Our music is produced by Silent Partner, and the song name is Seventh Floor Tango. We found them on YouTube's Creator Library, and you can find their links on our website, howinthehellpodcast.com. How in the Hell Shorts is a production of The Coloring Book Coach and is written, produced, and hosted by myself, Kim A. Floden, with editing direction from Carrie Floden.